What's up YouTube, it's your boy JP's on the keys in this 2 Easy Map video today. And we got something different. This is why Europe is insanely well designed. To be honest, when I've seen the videos of like people driving, like the way the roads are set up and like the way the buildings are is really different from how it is in America. And I'm kind of intrigued. I'm really intrigued on how this design pattern works. So without further ado, thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you are new to my channel. Thank you so much for all the support. Check out my gaming channel. I just dropped 2 bangers this week. I'm dropping a 3rd one pretty soon, so check it out. I'm working on a script for my true crime channel, so check that out too as well. Both of those channels will be in the description down below.
This is a map of Europe's mass transit railway system across 33 countries. The yellow lines indicate the presence of a train line, and as you can see, it's very dense. There are hardly any spaces where there isn't any coverage for railways. Now, if we compare this to a map of railroad tracks in the US, it's a different story. While parts of the US have some good mass transit, there are large areas of the country which isn't covered by Amtrak, the nation's largest passenger railroad service. But let me show you another map, this time of high-speed rail in Europe. Now obviously, high-speed railways aren't going to be as common as regular speed railways as they require excellent design, strict planning and massive investment. And yet, as we can see, high-speed rail is present in Europe, which is a stark contrast to the US, as you can see from this map. While the US does have some higher speed rail, like the Aquila line in the Northeastern Corridor, it's hardly an effective map of transport solutions. And the Aquila line isn't really that fast either. It can reach about 150 miles per hour, but averages less than 70. This is not the case for Europe's insanely well-designed railroad system. And you have to remember that Europe's system accomplishes this while spanning 33 different nations in a very diverse continent. And I know what you're probably thinking. This is just because Europe is smaller than the United States, which simply isn't true. While the European Union is smaller than the US, continental Europe has an area that is about 1.04 times as much as the US. So we can dismiss this argument that the United States can't be that well designed because it's too big. Europe simply is better designed. But if you're American, you might not understand why railroad tracks or public transport as a whole is so important. I mean, driving a car works fine, right? Well, no. And Europe showcases why a primary focus on private transportation is so detrimental to a well-functioning transit system. Look at these maps. They show the US road network versus the EU's. And the road network is not nearly as impressive as the US's. And yet, when you look at some of the most congested cities in the world, European countries don't feature particularly prominently in the global rankings. This is pretty shocking information because you'd assume that the country with a more expansive road network has a lot less congestion, especially considering the United States has devoted lots of time and money to their highways. So how come Europe is less congested when they have fewer roads? Well, it all comes down to disincentivizing the use of cars and, most importantly, making an attractive alternative. Europe does this by having both private and public transportation infrastructure, which technically the US has as well, it's just a lot worse. But on top of this, Europe makes it pretty expensive to buy, own and use a car. This is achieved by having high taxes on vehicles and gasoline. In fact, here's a map of worldwide gasoline prices. As you can see, European nations are in the top rankings, while the US lies at the bottom, charging very little. But let me be very clear, it's only a good idea to make it expensive to drive a car if you have an attractive alternative, which America doesn't, but Europe does. I mean, obviously this wouldn't work in the US with its current transportation infrastructure, but in Europe, this is a great strategy because you make the roads less congested for those who actually need them and give everyone else an affordable and efficient alternative, being Europe's amazing public transport like the trains on the railways. This is arguably the better strategy because even though the vast majority of Americans have access to vehicles at around 91% and gas is comparatively cheap, it still leaves 9% who don't have access to vehicles. What are these people who can't afford a car supposed to do? I mean, sometimes public transport isn't even an option or simply too expensive for many. So you've now actively excluded those who aren't exactly the most well off from society. To make
Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, the times when I didn't have a vehicle, Like getting on the public transport, like getting on the bus. It's you. The thing is, the way the bus is, it was only set. It would come like every 45 minutes. No, it would come like certain times, and you had to like coordinate where there were bus stops near where you were at. So you had to be like, oh, there's a bus stop here where I could get picked up, and then there's a bus stop way downstate where I need to be. So you have to coordinate that. Then you have to remember, oh, if you want to be there, let's say by 7:30 in the morning, you have to board the bus at like maybe 5:30 in the morning because it's going to make 13,000 different stops, and then take all these different ways, and then you having to coordinate where, and then having to make sure you're at the bus stop on time. Because if you're not there, you're SOL. You know, this is why I was so glad when I got my car, my newer car. Because not having a car in America, and in just my state, especially, not it. Because everything is so far away. It's like, I don't know, and plus I don't really trust public transportation. To me, I don't really trust it. But it's just like, if you're on somebody else's time and I don't know.
Matters worse, some US cities actually got rid of their public transport to make room for more cars. I'm not joking. American streetcars like trams were actually removed to make way for bigger roads. Absolutely insane. Compare that to Oslo, Berlin and Madrid, where discussions are underway to restrict or even exclude most cars from the city center. And let's not forget that when you have cars, you also need somewhere to park them. And this is where things start to become rather ridiculous. You see, the United States has 2 billion parking spaces for 250 million cars. That's 8 parking spaces per vehicle. In Europe, it's pretty much a 1-to-1 with around 250 million public parking spaces for 300 million cars. But to emphasize the ridiculousness of this even further, the area that the US dedicates for car parking is actually larger than the area dedicated for housing people. It's honestly unbelievable that people are being squeezed out of American cities due to regulators wanting to make more room for parking spaces. This simply wouldn't fly in the EU, as it has a whole policy dedicated to improving urban planning. See, the EU spent 115 billion euros between 2014 and 2020 to improve city design by making it smarter, greener and more connected. Simply meaning they allocated funds to make their cities more efficient, more connected and better for the environment. And better for the environment they really are. As the average resident in a typical Western US city, such as Los Angeles or Phoenix, contributes approximately 6 times more carbon to the atmosphere per capita than an average European city.
Because you're driving a car all the time.
This is purely the result of not having effective transport solutions, which saves resources and allows people to move about efficiently. And exactly that. Moving about efficiently is something most of Europe's citizens are able to do as a result of the European Union. See, most of Europe's nations are in the European Union, which gives the EU citizens a number of perks, which includes a free travel area. This has been one of the most important achievements of the EU, as it makes it possible for an EU citizen to travel freely to other EU member states and stay for up to 3 months. All they need is a passport or even just an ID card. No visas, no trips to embassies, no form filing, just head straight over. This makes it incredibly easy to travel, study and work in other countries and communities. And having this level of centralization is very important to good design, as it gives the smartest people the opportunity to work where they are most useful. And since good design obviously requires a lot of complicated problem solving and planning, this is very smart. Another smart thing is the incredible biking infrastructure we see in Europe, perfectly illustrated by this map of bike path density in Europe. All the purple lines are bike paths, and there's clearly a lot of them, especially towards the left side of the map, but that's just because this is the home of the Dutch, the Netherlands. Now, the funny thing is, I won't be able to compare this to a map of bike path density in the United States, because such a map hasn't been made. At least I wasn't able to find any, and I can only wonder why. But anyway.
Man, ain't nobody riding no bikes in America. Nobody is riding bikes. If you see a bike lane on a road, the bike lane might be like this big and it's on all the way on the right side of the road, and people still don't even they don't even watch out for the bikes. They still all in the bike lanes and they still almost running people over with bikes. Like, you might as well just go on the sidewalk and do what you got to do. Because you're going to bike on the road in America the way American people drive. You asking to get hit. Because the bike lane is like this big, but the road is wall. It's just crazy when you think about it. Like, they've really prioritized public transportation as a way to also save on greenhouse gas emissions. That's the biggest thing I took away from this.
What Europe and also the European Union has achieved is pretty remarkable, as it's hard to think of another set of such diverse countries where you would be able to travel so freely, in an efficient and inexpensive manner. I mean, you can literally get from Paris to Amsterdam, for example, in just 3 hours for around $30. Imagine being able to travel all over Asia without any border crossings, checks or visas, and being able to stay for months at a time. That would be truly amazing. And let's not forget that European design has always been distinctive and very successful. In fact, the continent's history of design and interconnectedness serves as a model for the rest of the world. But even though Europe and the EU are pretty great and have amazing infrastructure, they obviously aren't perfect. And I'd love to hear some of the reasons it might not be, so leave a comment down below if you have some thoughts on this. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, I've always thought like they don't really prioritize cars that much. And it's, they're trying to lower greenhouse gas emissions, get people to use more public transportation because that's, and also I'm thinking about that. When you use public transportation, you're investing more into the city. You know what I mean? Like, you're investing into the city. Like, you're putting money into the pockets of the city. So therefore they can spend more money in your, you know what I mean? Like, to your benefit. Like, they tax like our vehicles and gasoline so they can lower prices on other stuff. While America they just tax the mess out of you, and that's really the best way that the public gets money for the city, through taxes. Because I'm thinking, like, it's just crazy when I think about I'm thinking about being able to travel freely between countries. It's really can't. I mean, America's kind of landlocked in a way. We're kind of sandwiched between Canada and Mexico. So, I don't know. It's just really interesting to think about something like that, Let me know if you, just for those of you who are from the UK, definitely just fill me in on some things. I'm really curious. I want to know more about this stuff. But thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Don't forget to turn that bell on. I appreciate all you guys. I'm out. Peace.